Scammers stole everything from trusting 87-year-old grandmother pretending to be her grandson. Steve Harvey's payback will restore your faith in karma and prove that nobody messes with our grandmothers and gets away with it. It was March 2023, and 87-year-old Dorothy Williams sat in her small apartment in Cleveland, Ohio, staring at her empty bank account statement through tears. 3 months earlier, she had been financially secure with $47,000 in savings from a lifetime of careful budgeting and her late husband's pension. Now she had $23 to her name and couldn't afford her heart medication. Dorothy had been the victim of one of the cruelest crimes targeting seniors, the fake grandson scam. And the person who had destroyed her life was still out there, probably targeting other vulnerable grandparents while living off her hard-earned money. Dorothy Williams had lived a life of quiet dignity and generosity. She had been married to her husband Frank for 52 years before he passed away in 2019. They had raised 4 children and had been blessed with 12 grandchildren and 8 great-grandchildren. Dorothy was the kind of grandmother who never forgot a birthday, always had cookies in the cookie jar, and would give her last dollar to help family. After Frank's death, Dorothy had moved from their family home into a senior apartment complex. She lived modestly on Social Security and Frank's small pension, but she had managed to save $47,000 over the years. Many she planned to leave to her grandchildren and to cover her own end-of-life care. Dorothy stayed in close contact with her large family through phone calls and occasional visits. Her grandson Michael, who was 28 and lived in Chicago, called her every Sunday without fail. He was her eldest grandson and had always been special to Dorothy because he reminded her so much of Frank. On December 15, 2022, Dorothy received a phone call that would destroy her life. "Grandma Dorothy? It's Michael. I need your help." The voice sounded like Michael, but something seemed off. He sounded upset, maybe like he had been crying. "Michael, honey, what's wrong?" Dorothy asked, immediately concerned. "Grandma, I'm in terrible trouble. I was in a car accident, and I hit someone. The police arrested me, and I'm in jail. I need bail money, but I'm too ashamed to call my parents. Can you help me?" Dorothy's grandmother instincts kicked in immediately. One of her grandchildren was in trouble and needed help. "Oh my goodness, Michael. Are you hurt? How much do you need?" "I'm okay, but Grandma, I need $8,000 for bail. I know it's a lot of money, but I promise I'll pay you back as soon as I get out. Please don't tell my mom and dad. I don't want them to know I messed up this bad." Dorothy's heart broke hearing her grandson in such distress. $8,000 was a significant portion of her savings. But Michael was family, and family helped each other. "Of course I'll help you, honey. How do I get the money to you?" "There's a lawyer here who can help. His name is Robert Martinez. He'll call you in a few minutes and explain how to wire the money." "Grandma, thank you so much. I love you." "I love you too, Michael. Everything will be okay." 20 minutes later, Dorothy received a call from someone claiming to be attorney Robert Martinez. "Mrs. Williams, I'm representing your grandson Michael. He's told me what a wonderful grandmother you are and how much he loves you." "Is Michael really okay?" Dorothy asked. "He's fine, but he's very upset about the situation. The good news is that we can get him released today if we can post bail. I need you to wire $8,000 to my office account, and I'll handle everything from there." The attorney gave Dorothy detailed instructions for wiring money through Western Union. He told her to go to Walmart, use their money transfer service, and send the money to a specific name and address. "Mrs. Williams, it's very important that you don't mention this to anyone else in your family. Michael is already embarrassed about the situation, and he specifically asked that you keep this private until he can tell everyone himself." Dorothy, trusting and worried about her grandson, went to Walmart that afternoon and wired $8,000 to the account number the attorney had provided. She waited anxiously by her phone for Michael to call and confirm he had been released. But Michael never called. Instead, 2 days later, Dorothy received another call from the same Michael. "Grandma, I'm so sorry to bother you again. The lawyer said there were complications with my case. The person I hit is claiming more serious injuries now, and they've increased my bail. I need another $12,000. Dorothy was confused and getting worried. "Michael, honey, I've already given you $8,000. That's most of my savings. I know, Grandma, and I feel terrible asking for more. But if I can't make this additional bail, I might have to stay in jail for months waiting for trial. Please, I'll pay you back every penny as soon as this is over. Dorothy's love for her grandson overcame her financial concerns. She wired another $12,000. 3 days later, Michael called again. Grandma, there's one more problem. The lawyer says the victim is threatening to sue me personally unless I pay for their medical bills up front. If I don't pay $15,000, they'll file a civil lawsuit that could ruin my life. By this point, Dorothy had already given up $20,000 of her life savings, but the thought of her grandson's future being destroyed was unbearable. Michael, that's almost all my money. Are you sure there's no other way? Grandma, I've exhausted every other option. I hate asking you for this, but you're the only person who can save me. Dorothy wired her remaining $15,000. The truth began to unravel on December 22nd, when Dorothy's real grandson Michael called for their usual Sunday conversation. Hi, Grandma Dorothy. How was your week? Dorothy was confused. Michael sounded completely normal and happy, nothing like the distressed young man she had been helping all week. Michael, how are you feeling? Are you out of jail? Jail? Grandma, what are you talking about? I haven't been to jail. But Michael, you called me last week about the car accident and being arrested. Grandma, I didn't call you about any car accident. I haven't been in an accident, and I've never been arrested. The horrible truth crashed over Dorothy like a wave. She had been talking to a scammer, not her grandson. She had just given away $35,000, nearly her entire life savings, to criminals who had pretended to be her beloved grandson. Dorothy broke down crying on the phone with the real Michael. Grandma, you need to call the police right now, and you need to call your bank to see if there's any way to stop these wire transfers. But it was too late. Wire transfers are nearly impossible to reverse, and the money was already gone. Dorothy spent the next 3 months living in shame and fear. She was too embarrassed to tell the rest of her family what had happened. She couldn't afford her medications, started skipping meals to save money, and fell behind on her rent. The scammers had not only stolen her money, they had stolen her sense of security, her trust in others, and her ability to live independently. Dorothy's situation came to light when she fainted at the grocery store and was taken to the hospital. When the social worker discovered that Dorothy hadn't been taking her heart medication because she couldn't afford it, the whole story came out. Dorothy's daughter, Patricia, was horrified when she learned what had happened to her mother. Mom, why didn't you tell us? We would have helped you. I was so ashamed, Dorothy cried. I felt so stupid for falling for such an obvious scam. I kept thinking I should have known it wasn't really Michael. Patricia immediately began researching resources for scam victims and discovered that Dorothy's story was heartbreakingly common. Thousands of grandparents fall victim to similar scams every year. That's when Patricia decided to write to Steve Harvey. Mr. Harvey, Patricia wrote, my 87-year-old mother was scammed out of her life savings by criminals pretending to be her grandson. She's now living in poverty and shame because she trusted the wrong people. I know you help families, and I'm hoping you can help my mother get some justice and maybe warn other grandparents about these scams. 6 weeks later, Dorothy received a phone call that would change everything. Dorothy, this is Janet Miller from the Steve Harvey Show. We received a letter from your daughter about what happened to you, and Mr. Harvey wants to help. I don't know what anyone can do, Dorothy said sadly. The money is gone, and the police said these scammers are almost impossible to catch. Dorothy, you might be surprised by what Steve Harvey can accomplish. 2 weeks later, Dorothy sat in the green room of the Steve Harvey Show, nervous about telling her story on national television. Dorothy, Steve said, when he met her before the show, I want you to know that what happened to you isn't your fault. These scammers are professionals who prey on grandparents' love for their grandchildren. But I should have known it wasn't really Michael. Dorothy, these criminals are experts at manipulating people's emotions. They study how to sound like family members, they research families on social media, and they know exactly what to say to trigger grandparents' protective instincts. During the show, Dorothy shared her story with dignity and courage. She explained how the scammers had exploited her love for her grandson and stolen her financial security. Dorothy, Steve said, what do you want other grandparents to know about these scams? I want them to know that it can happen to anyone. I thought I was too smart to fall for something like this, but when you think your grandchild is in trouble, you don't think clearly, you just want to help. What would you tell people to do if they get a call like the one you received? Hang up and call your grandchild directly on their known phone number. Call other family members to verify the story. Don't wire money to anyone, no matter how urgent they say it is. But Steve had been working behind the scenes to deliver justice. Dorothy, I want you to meet someone. This is Detective Maria Santos from the FBI's Elder Fraud Unit. She's been working on your case. Detective Santos came onto the stage with news that shocked everyone. Dorothy, we've been tracking the scam operation that targeted you. Using the wire transfer information and phone records, we've identified and arrested 3 members of the criminal ring that stole your money. Dorothy gasped. You caught them? We caught them. And Dorothy, we've recovered $31,000 of your stolen funds from their bank accounts. The audience erupted in applause as Dorothy broke down in tears of relief and joy. But that's not all, Steve said. Dorothy, the AARP Foundation heard your story and wants to make sure you're fully compensated for what these criminals put you through. They're providing an additional $16,000 to restore your complete savings and cover your medical expenses. Dorothy was crying so hard she could barely speak. I can't believe this is real. It's real, Dorothy. And there's one more thing. These scammers kept detailed records of all their victims. Because you came forward and told your story, we've been able to identify and help 23 other grandparents who were scammed by the same operation. The most satisfying part came when Steve revealed what had happened to the scammers. The 3 men who targeted you have been sentenced to federal prison terms ranging from 8 to 12 years. They'll be paying restitution to their victims and will be banned from using phones or computers without supervision when they're released. 6 months later, Dorothy returned to Steve's show for a follow-up that inspired millions of viewers. Dorothy, how has your life changed since we first met? Steve asked. Mr. Harvey, I have my dignity back, my financial security back, and most importantly, my faith in justice has been restored, Dorothy said. I also started volunteering with the AARP to help educate other seniors about scam prevention. What's your message to scammers who target grandparents? I want them to know that they picked the wrong grandmother, Dorothy said with fire in her eyes. And I want them to know that Steve Harvey is watching, the FBI is watching, and we're not going to let you prey on our seniors anymore. The most beautiful part of the follow-up was when Dorothy's real grandson Michael joined her on stage. Michael, how did this experience affect your relationship with your grandmother? Steve asked. It made me realize how much my grandmother loves me and how far she would go to help me, Michael said. But it also taught me to call her more often and make sure she knows she can always verify things with me directly. What would you tell other grandchildren watching this? Call your grandparents regularly so they know your voice well. Talk to them about scams and create a family code word that only real family members would know. And most importantly, let them know they can always call you back to verify if someone claiming to be you asks for help. Today, Dorothy Williams has become a national advocate for senior scam prevention. She works with the FBI, AARP, and local law enforcement to educate grandparents about protecting themselves from fraud. Her story has been featured in senior centers across the country and has helped prevent countless other grandparents from falling victim to similar scams. Steve keeps a photo from Dorothy's first show on his desk. The moment when she learned that justice had been served and her money recovered. It reminds him daily that seniors deserve protection from predators and that sometimes the best revenge is making sure criminals face real consequences. Dorothy taught me that our grandparents deserve more than our love, they deserve our protection, Steve often says. These scammers thought they could steal from a sweet old lady and disappear. They learned that when you mess with someone's grandmother, you're going to answer to all of us. The Dorothy Williams case led to new federal legislation increasing penalties for crimes targeting seniors and established new protocols for banks and wire transfer services to flag suspicious transactions involving elderly customers. If this story of grandmother scam justice moved you, please subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. Share this video with the seniors in your life and teach them about the warning signs of grandson scams. Have you or a family member ever been targeted by scammers? Let us know in the comments, And don't forget to ring that notification bell for more stories about protecting our most vulnerable family members and delivering justice to those who prey on them.